All right, shalom, shalom, shalom. All praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, which is to say in the Paleo Hebrew, Yahweh, which is the name of our Heavenly Father, meaning He is, and that is who the world ignorantly calls God. Bahashem, meaning in the name, Yahweh Shai, meaning He is our salvation, and that is who the world also ignorantly calls Jesus, a so-called black man, who, by the way, only came for the Israelites. All right, which brings us to our discussion slash topic this afternoon, which is this phenomenon that seems to be taking the science world by storm. Okay, what am I speaking of? If you haven't heard by now, it's this object that they've deemed or coined 3-eye atlas. Okay, and they're saying that it's a potential that it could be something more than natural. All right, what do I mean by natural? A comet, a asteroid, a meteorite, something of that nature. They're saying, well, at least this guy is saying that there's a small percent chance that is something more. All right, as of now. Okay, he's giving it, according to him, on this new scale that he's created after his name, the Loeb scale. Out of 0 to 10, he's giving it a 4, giving it a 40% chance that it could be something more than what we know as a natural occurrence, like a meteorite or asteroid or a comet. All right, but he won't know until it gets closer to the sun. All right, so we're going to play this clip, and I'm going to let it play for a little bit, and then I'm going to jump to the point or the part where he makes a statement that caught my attention of how they can play this out to use in their purpose, in their benefit. All right, and I'm just going to tell you, he says that they can use it to crash the stock market. All right, so we're going to let it play, and then I'm going to move it forward to that part. So here it is. Fair use. Educational purposes only.
Thanks for joining us on Newsmaker. A fast-moving object the size of Manhattan is hurtling towards our solar system, and it will make its closest pass to Earth on December 17th. Comet, asteroid, or something else? A Harvard astrophysicist believes there's a strong likelihood this is a craft of alien origin, and the implications, obviously, for humanity would be profound. Avi Loeb, professor at Harvard, joins me now. Great to see you. Thank you. And I've been reading with interest what you're putting out there. It's very provocative.
Well, science is fun as long as you allow yourself to learn something new. And the problem with experts is that they insist on past knowledge that they promoted in echo chambers. And obviously anything in the sky, they argue, is a comet. But we should be open-minded because, if we have a visitor from the cosmic street to our backyard, it may not be a rock. It could be a tennis ball thrown by a neighbor. So let's look at the data.
That is a very interesting analogy. All right, Dr. Loeb, it is called 3-eye/atlas. Give me the best case for why you think this object may be extraterrestrial and maybe alien form.
Well, first, its brightness implies that if it represents reflection of sunlight from a solid object, it needs to be 20 kilometers in diameter. That's bigger than Manhattan Island. And this is a giant rock. The previous interstellar objects were hundreds of times smaller. So it just doesn't make sense.
Now remember what he just said. A giant rock. Okay? That's very important. All right? Now he's going to say one more aspect of this anomaly, and then we're going to get a precept. So check this out. A giant rock is one, but we're going to wait till he says the next thing, and then we're going to get the precept to go along with it.
that the third object from interstellar space will be 100 times bigger than the previous two, and we won't see anything in between. And moreover, there is not enough rocky material in interstellar space to deliver us a rock of this size, 20 kilometers, over a period of about a decade that we conducted the survey of the sky, because this material is very rare and you expect it once per maybe 10,000 years or longer. And so it's surprising.
Now that's the second thing. You expect it every 10,000 years. So the last time they had something this size was within 10,000 years. Now that's questionable, seeing how as the earth isn't but so many years old. They would have you to believe that the earth is millions upon millions of years old, all right? But they have no facts or substantiated facts to back that up, all right? But the point was that they haven't seen this size rock in a very long time, okay? Now we know Yahushua, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus, left in the same manner as he's going to come back. And that's what? Via by the way of a chariot, okay? In Esdras saw a humongous rock with the man on it, all right? Matter of fact, let's go there and get that account. This is the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 13, and we're going to start at the top, verse 1. And it reads, "And it came to pass, after 7 days, I dreamed a dream by night." So Esdras had this dream by night. He had a vision, all right, as prophets do. It says, "And lo, there arose a wind from the sea, that it moved all the waves thereof." All right. Now this wind that's coming from the sea is speaking of Yahushua, and he's not coming out of the literal sea. He's coming from the firmament, outside of the firmament. All right. It says, "And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong." Who is that man? It's Yahushua, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus, "with the thousands of heaven." And this guy right here, this Harvard professor, is going to state that this rock could potentially have other probes that come from within it or come from without it, outside of it, that's coming from the probe itself. It says, "And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him." See? So this man, Yahushua, who's austere, when the world sees him, they're going to tremble. That's why it says, every eye shall see him, and every tongue or mouth shall confess him, roughly paraphrasing. Now let's jump down to the point. It says, verse 6, "But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain." See? What is a mountain? It's a rock. Ezra's seen this vision as if it was a humongous or great mountain. All right? It says, "and flew upon it." See? So he's coming from outer space on a humongous or great mountain that looks like a rock, which Ezra saw, and every man is going to behold and see him, and they're also going to fight against him. All right? So this could very much well be used by these elites to usher in or bring in confusion and chaos to those that don't understand. All right? And what could they also use with this incident that they're propping up in their media? All right? Instrument known as Project Bluebeam, where they can project an image and give off the illusion that it's some kind of alien invasion. All right? So we can't be ignorant of Satan devices. All right? We understand that Yahushua is coming, and it's for the elect, and he's coming in a fashion or manner that the world has never seen before. All right. So however they want to set this stage for this incident to take place, so as this guy right here is going to say, they can use to crash the stock market. All right. Which is a possibility. Okay. It's a possibility that it can very well use such as an incident like this to instoke fear and have people remove money from out of banks, to do stuff that's irrational and could cause the market to crash and tumble at an astronomical rate. All right. So that they can what? Usher in their beast system, which they're already working on and putting provisions into place right now by having these National Guards and military presence in places like DC. Now they're talking about Chicago. All right. They're using the guidelines of fighting crime to justify putting in troops. But in actuality, they're putting in troops for when all hell breaks loose. All right. And they have to enforce the mark of the beast, whether or not you have it and can buy and sell, or whether you don't and can't buy and sell. All right. So the fix, quote unquote, is in that however they want to play this interstellar object, for whether it's a ship or extraterrestrial, object, or whether it's a comet, because they say they won't know till it gets closer to the sun to see whether or not it forms a tail, or as he says, a cometary tail. All right. So let's let it play for a few more minutes, and then we'll jump to the point where he says that it could be used to crash the stock market. All right.
If indeed it's a rock of that size, and you might say, okay, well, maybe it has nothing to do with the reservoir of rocks in interstellar space on random trajectory. Maybe this object was targeting the inner solar system. It had a goal to visit the inner solar system, in which case it's that the rocky reservoir is irrelevant. And if you look at the trajectory of this object, indeed it's perfectly aligned with the plane of the planets around the sun. And
it's
within
interesting.
5 degrees. And the chance of that happening at random is 1 in 500. And that allows this object to come very close to the inner planets. For example, it will come close to Mars, Venus, and Jupiter. And if you take the path of this object and just change randomly the arrival time, you find that there is a chance in 1 in 20,000 of it coming so close to 3 planets, as if this trajectory was fine-tuned. It was designed so that it will come close to a lot of planets along the path, and it actually moves opposite to the direction of motion of the planets around the sun. It's on a retrograde orbit, and that would be ideal if this object wanted to maneuver or release mini probes that will visit the planets. Now, it will actually...
See there? So he's stating or saying that the manner or fashion how this object is currently moving is retrospect in how other rocks and meteorites and asteroids has moved in the past. Is moving in a opposite direction, showing that it's being guided. He's trying to allude to or being controlled by something else. And he says it could have many probes. All right. So this is something. All right. This is something. Okay. Either it's going to be used in their purpose, or it could be used in their purpose to instoke or incite fear to crash the market, or it's actually the host of heaven. All right. Making it known. All right. That, hey, Yahushua and the host of heaven, they outside, man. All right.
get closest to the sun on October 29th, 2025, and that's when the Earth would be on the opposite side. It's as if it tries to avoid us. We won't be able to observe it. But it also comes from a direction in the sky that is crowded with lots of stars. It was difficult to see it until July 1st, 2025. And so the fundamental question is, was this designed by intelligence out there? And my argument is that we should collect as much data as possible to figure it out. And I defined a new scale that is now called the Loeb scale after my last name, where 0 implies a purely natural object like a comet or an asteroid, and 10 is a definitely technological object that maneuvers, broadcasts a signal, or transmits some artificial lights. And I rank this object, 3i Atlas, as 4 on the scale between 0 and 10. And of course, the more data we have, the clearer it will become. As it comes closer to the sun, it should...
So it's not convincingly yet being looked at as, in his eyes, something that's controlled by alien technology, but somewhere on the lower spectrum of his scale as being closely related to a natural object, but not quite, because he's got it at a 4 out of a 10. All right, 10 being exactly alien, material, alien driven technology or technology, however you say that word, and 4 and 0 being no technology. I can't even say the words. Salakia, excuse me. But the point is made, okay?
It should outgas and produce a beautiful cometary tail. If it is a comet, we don't see a cometary tail as of now. The Hubble Space Telescope took a very high-resolution image of it, and all we see is some glow surrounding it that is actually preceding it towards the direction of the sun, but nothing behind it the way we see cometary tails, which are pushed away from the sun.
So it's got a unique signature that doesn't imply comet. And as you know, NASA is saying this is a comet. It poses no threat to Earth and will remain at a distance of at least 1.6 astronomical units. That's about 150 million miles. But as we know, NASA's been wrong before. They thought they had discovered a new asteroid, which turned out to be Elon Musk's Roadster, the Tesla Roadster that had been launched. So they've been wrong before.
Oh, yeah. I mean, science is full of mistakes, and scientists in the mainstream of science that are considered experts often invest billions of dollars to check a hypothesis that turns out to be wrong. Some examples include,
Right, because with men make mistakes, all right? But Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, he doesn't make mistakes, all right? Yahweh, why Yahweh Shai, they don't make mistakes, all right? So everything is for a reason, all right? So let's jump to the point where he makes the reference to this potentially having an effect on the stock market. Give me 1 second. We're going to slide right on down to it. Right, so check this out.
Influencers aren't new. Don't call it a comeback.
And so if in the months after the passage of 3i Atlas close to the sun, if we would see any unusual activity, you will know about it. And of course, if something like that is detected, the stock market may crash. If there is evidence that we encounter alien technology.
You got one that's laughing, and you got one that's telling you a potential possibility of an outcome. All right, let's hear that again.
See any unusual activity, you will know about it. And of course, if something like that is detected, the stock market may crash. If there is evidence that we encounter alien technology, yes, that would be the most significant.
So if these elites know the prophecy and they know the manner of how Yahweh Shai is coming back, they may try to get ahead of prophecy and stage some type of alien invasion with their Project Bluebeam technology and use it to what? Use this three-eye atlas as a terror, as a fear tactic. Okay, so we can't put anything past these devils, man. All right, we telling you, all right, as a potential member of the elect, to keep watching, to be sober. All right, so let's get a few precepts. This is 2 Corinthians 13 and 8. It says, for we can do nothing against the truth, but for the truth. So whatever they want to do, all right, to try to, discredit this truth, putting this out as a potential alien object or technology, hey, they can't do anything for the truth. They can't do anything against the truth, but for the truth, all right? So, hey, we have to have what? Hope, all right? And we can't lose that, all right? Let's go to Mark 18 and, no, St. Luke. Salakia. Let's go to St. Luke 18 and 27. It says, and he said, Yahushai, the things which are impossible with men are possible with the Most High. So we have to continue to have hope, man. All right, because that's all we have. All right, hope, and we have our faith that what? Yahushai is coming for his elect. All right, and in the manner that Ezra saw, that great mountain. All right, that great rock. Okay, that looks like a rock or mountain, but it's an actual what you would call spacecraft or so-called UFO, but we know them as the chariots. Okay, so the Lord is coming, man. All right, even if something doesn't happen when they say it's supposed to happen, late September, middle of October, and by the end of December. All right, don't let that discourage you. All right, you have to keep your faith and your hope. All right, because this is what we have, man. All right, so let's go to John 14 in verse 1. This is the book of John, chapter 14 and verse 1. It reads, let not your heart or your mind be troubled. Ye believe in the Most High, believe also in me. This is Yahushua speaking. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. See? So right now, Yahushua went back to his Father to what? To prepare a place for us in the what? Fourth dimension, in the outer space. All right, because why? We're going to cultivate not just the earth, but other planets and galaxies as well. Okay, so Yahushua is not just sitting back, chilling. All right, he's sitting on the right hand side of his Father, but he's preparing a place for us also. All right, so this humongous, what they call now is a unidentified object. As of now, they don't know if it's a comet or something more. It could very much well be Yahushua preparing a place for us out there. All right. It says, if it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again. These are comforting words, man, to those that believe and have hope. He says, Yahushua says he will come again. And in the book of Acts 1, it tells us in that manner. All right, if I'm not mistaken, the same way that he left is the same way that he came, which is by what? A cloud or a so-called chariot. Slakia, a cloud, which is a chariot, and a so-called UFO. And Ezra saw that UFO, that so-called UFO, that chariot, as a humongous rock, and the man flew upon it. Who is the man? Yahushua. He's telling you right here. It says, and if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again. Do you believe? Do you believe the Lord will leave us here in the hands of these enemies, especially Esau, Edom, without giving us restitution, reparations, having slaves, which Lord willing I'm going to go into in another video? Of course not. He's not going to leave us here to be consumed and to be devoured by our enemies. He's going to come back in a spectacular fashion. All right? In the midst of all hell breaking loose, when there seems like there's no hope in sight, the Lord's going to crack those clouds and he's going to come along with the host of heaven and deliver his elect. All right? It says, and if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and do what? And receive you unto myself. How? He's going to beam up his elect in the chariots. Isaiah 26:20. Enter now into thy chambers, hide thyself, as if it were for a while, until the indignation passes over. It says, I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. So we're going into the outer spaces. We're going out of the firmament. We're going to have these immortal bodies. All right. We're going to have slaves. All right. We're going to take these slaves and put them on planets and have them cultivated. All right. Yahushua is preparing all of this stuff for us right now. And that very much well could be what that telescope or whatever that instrument has picked up has shown. Okay? It says that where I am, there ye may be also. We know that Yahushua is back with the Father in the fourth dimension, outer space, where Esau, Edom can't go. Jeremiah 31:37. All right. Isaiah, what is that? 65 or 66, where it says, the heaven is my throne and the earth my footstool. Isaiah 66:1, thus saith Yahweh, the heaven is my throne and the earth is my footstool. See? So the Lord, Yahweh, is out. You can't even put it into words. All right. Yahweh is everywhere. All right. He's not to be put into a box. All right. But Yahushua is with Yahweh, and they're what we would call in the fourth dimension. All right. In space. Okay. And we're going there with the new bodies that we're going to receive. And Yahushua is preparing the places for us. In his Father's house are many mansions. All right? Many planets, many solar systems, many galaxies. See? As we read, with it says St. Luke, what we read, St. Luke 18:27. It said that what? St. Luke 18:27. The things which are impossible with man. See, this is an impossible feat. When you say this to someone, they say, nah, that can't be. That's impossible. With man, the things which are impossible with man are possible with the Most High. Oh, it's just a comet. It just hasn't formed a tail yet. It's impossible for that to be anything other than a comet. It says the things which are impossible with man are possible with the Most High. Man, the Lord can do anything, man, to give his, his elect signs to keep their faith and hope alive. That's why we got to fight.
that we are part of that elect, so we could be received into Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. All right? This is what the fight is for, man. All right? Amongst all odds, we have to believe and have faith, and we have to have hope. Romans 8:24. Okay? So jumping back to John 14, in verse 3, it says, and if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again. Do you believe that Yahweh Shai is going to come again? Do you believe in the manner that he's going to come again? All right? Via by the way of that humongous mountain or rock, that chariot, that so-called UFO. And alongside with him, Michael, the archangel, and the rest of the angels. All right? Coming to take this damn devil and his angels down. All right? Which is who? Esau, Edom, and the other nations. You could go into Zephaniah 3 and 8 and the verses that we didn't get in 2nd Ezra 13, right around 3, 4, 5, and going into 6. All right? So Yahweh Shai is coming. And it's even said that, I believe it's Luke, I saw Satan fall from heaven as fast as lightning. Yahweh Shai is going to make light work of Esau, Edom, along with the other nations, and take all his spacecraft out of the upper atmosphere, his satellites, his you name it, his satellites, his space stations, and everything else. They all getting tapped. They all getting tossed to the earth when Yahweh Shai comes back. All right, and make war with this devil. Okay. It says, verse 4. Well, you know what? Let's go back up and read that last part of 3. It says that where I am, there ye may be also. See? And we know that Yahweh Shai is in the 4th dimension. He's in outer space. All right? And we're going to be able to go there with our new bodies. All right? Verse 4. And whither I go, ye know. How? Because we have the understanding from the Holy Spirit. As it says, we have an unction to know all things. I believe that's 1 John 2 and 20. 1 John 2 and 20. But ye have an unction from the Holy One, the Holy Spirit, and ye know all things. So we know where Yahweh Shai is at. All right, he's with the Father on the right hand side, preparing a place for us. All right. So John 14 and 4 says, and whither I go ye know, and the way you know. All right, we know the way. All right, as Thomas is going to ask and Yahweh Shai is going to explain, it says, verse 5, Thomas said unto him, Lord, we know not whither thou goest, and how can we know the way? So let's hear what Yahweh Shai said. Verse 6, Yahweh Shai said unto him, I am the way, see, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. You ain't getting to the Father. You're not going out of space. You're not going to these other planets, these mansions that Yahweh Shai has set aside for his elect without Yahweh Shai. All right, you're not going to be changed and meet the Father without Yahweh Shai. All right, that's what the great deliverance here in Babylon the Great and elsewhere is going to be, when the chariot changes us from mortals to immortals. All right, then we can go out and meet the Father in the outer space. All right, in the 4th dimension, we can have these perfect bodies as we were meant to have in the beginning, but we sinned against the Father, and he sent us to what? These mortal bodies. All right, so now the Father is willing to accept us back through his only begotten Son Yahweh Shai, and allow us to come out into his house, his throne, the space, the universe outside of the firmament, and we can go and we can see these other mansions that Yahweh Shai has been, preparing for us. All right, a beautiful thing. Okay, So let's read that again. St. John 14:6. Yahweh said unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh into the Father but by me. You're not coming out of the firmament into the sea without Yahweh. All right? You have to be changed. All right? That's why Esau, Edom can't go and will never be able to go until it's time for him to cultivate the other planets in slavery. Then we're going to use them and give them the ability to travel outside of the firmament to come into the other planets and galaxies to cultivate it and do slavery and set up other planets for who? The elect. Okay? Well, this man ain't going outside of the planet. He ain't going outside of the firmament where the Father is. He ain't going into space. All right? Not like he would like for you to believe. All right? He can go to the upper part of the firmament, but he can't get through the firmament where the Father is. All right? So let's go to Luke 21. And let's start at 25, the return of the Hamashiach. It says, and there should be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars. They said that they couldn't detect this object because it was hidden amongst the stars. And it wasn't until late July that it actually revealed itself amongst the stars that they actually was able to pick up on it and coin it or deem it 3-eye Atlas. It says, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. All right? Hey, the people are going to be in an uproar once they see what's actually coming. Once they see that a so-called black man who they've been lied to and to believe that it's a Edomite, a Caucasian. No, man. All right? It's a so-called black man, a Judite from the tribe of Judah. Okay? And he's waxing strong with the host of heaven. All right? They're going to be in an uproar. It says, men's hearts failing them for fear. They're going to be dropping left to right. Not only seeing it, but getting beamed. All right? Because it also says in that same book, 2 Ezra 13, that he's going to turn them into powder. All right? Yahweh Shai returns and he's going to turn a lot of people into powder, man. That's a heavy chapter, 2 Ezra 13, man. It coincides with everything when Yahweh Shai returns, how he's going to take down the enemies, what he's going to do to the people, and everything else. All right? It says, verse 26, men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. See? So it's going to be a time, because as it says, every eye shall behold and every tongue shall confess. All right, that they gonna see the chariot when it shows up. All right, they gonna see it. You ain't gonna be able to deny it. All right, it's going to make itself known. Yahweh Shai, when he shows up, he's going to make itself known. All right. Now we brothers have seen sights of the chariots prior to all of this. You know, we seen them in the sky. We seen them at night. We seen them. Okay. As it says in Amos 9, all right, the eyes of the Lord are amongst a sinful kingdom. Now we know that's speaking of at that time Israel, but now what's the sinful kingdom? Okay, this place where we're at, Babylon the Great, and that's why we're seeing a uptake in sightings of these chariots, which this guy deemed as probes. Okay, that fathership is sending out probes, man, and eventually it's going to settle down over earth and it's going to be undeniable. All right. You're going to see it on your smartphone. You're going to see it everywhere. All right. Which is why this man could be using this to bring up his Project Bluebeam to try to what? Demonize the angels in Yahweh Shai. All right. So guess what? We getting ahead of it and telling you, be prepared for anything. All right. anything this man wants to use to demonize the word and to make it seem like it's something more than what it actually is, which is our salvation, get your mind right. All right? It says, verse 26, men's hearts failing them for fear. What else? And for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of heaven shall be shaken, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in a cloud. Ezra's put it as a mountain. All right? Here, the writers is putting it as a cloud. And power and great glory. All right? Those are the chariots. And when these things begin to come to pass, what? Yahushua says, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. See? This is how we get out of here. This is how we're going to be able to go to other planets. This is how we're going to be able to go to the Father, which it says in Isaiah 66, the earth is my footstool, heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. This is how we're going to be able to go where the Father is, out of earth, okay, into the galaxy. It says, and when these things began to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. And he spake to them a parable. Behold, the fig tree and all the trees, when they now shoot forth, ye see and know of your own selves that summer is nigh at hand, meaning close by. So these are the signs. Just like you know when the fig trees shoot forth that the summer is nigh, well, guess what? These signs that we're seeing is showing you that what? Yahushua is nigh at hand or close. It says, verily, did we get 31? So likewise ye, verse 31, Luke 21 and 31, so likewise ye, when ye see these things come to pass, know ye that the kingdom of the Most High is nigh at hand, is close by. All right? This could very much well be an indicator that Yahushua is on his way, close by hand. All right? We know they have to implement the mark of the beast, the microchip. So get ready for something to happen. 32. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. We are in that generation, all right? 33. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. Showing you that his words are going to be here long after this place, America, passes away, all right? Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. So the words, the laws, the statutes, the commandments, they're going into the kingdom, in the new heaven, the new earth, as John said, as John saw in Revelation. All right, I saw a new heaven and a new earth come down. All right, so after this old heaven and earth is passed away, guess what? The laws, statutes, and commandments are going to be implemented in the new earth, in the new heaven. All right, which is what? Jerusalem. Right, which is what? A people before it's a place. All right, we're going to implement the law, statutes, commandments, a righteous kingdom here on earth. That's the kingdom of heaven here on earth. 34. And take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and cares of this life, and so that day come upon you unawares. Right. The people that just take this as what the scientists say as a comet, as they said, NASA says it's just a comet, it very much well could be something more than a comet. All right. And the sign that you have to get yourself together, you could be throwing it out the window because you're just brushing it off as just something out of the blue, but it's going to reveal itself as something natural, as a comet or asteroid or whatever, okay, a meteor. All right, but see, we understand prophecy and we know that Yahushua is close by. All right, we know that Yahushua is nigh at hand, close. All right, so we're taking every precaution and necessary measurement needed to make sure we're in good standings. Okay, So whatever 3-eye atlas turns out to be, we know that we can do nothing for the truth, or we can do nothing against the truth, but for the truth. All right. If it's a comet, we got a lesson out of it. What's the worst thing? We got edified. If it's not a comet and it turns out to be something more, then we know what's happening. All right. Anyway we go, we win with the truth, baby. It's a win-win. A lesson was produced from this, and if it's more, we already know what's up. Call halal Yahweh Bahashim Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. All praises to Yahweh in the name of Hamashiach, the anointed Yahweh Shai. All right. Call halal Yahweh Bahashim Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. Hey, it's a beautiful thing when you in the truth, man. You don't take L's in the truth, man. You do not take L's in the truth. That's what you have to come to realization. You can't take L's in the truth, all right? The only L you take is when you fall out of the truth, okay? Other than that, as long as you in the truth, you in good standings, you in good hands, like Allstate, all right? You in better hands than Allstate. You in the hands of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, man, all right? So this is, I enjoyed it, man. You know, I enjoyed it. You know, I seen that video. I was like, wow. Hey, if it's a comet, who cares? If it isn't, though. However, if it isn't a comet, hey, let's not just jump. We ain't going to jump the gun. We going to be patient as we was told to be. All right? We going to continue to do the work. And however the Lord wants to reveal himself. Okay? We just here to play our part, to play our role, all right? So let's go ahead and close out with 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8. This is essential. This is important. This is 1 Peter 5 and 8. It reads, be sober. See? You have to be sober. That's why we blow the trumpet. That's why we're sounding the alarm in Zion to let you know, all right? Great things are happening. Don't be asleep at the wheel, all right? You've gotten woken up for a reason. Don't fall asleep at the wheel and crash. It says, be vigilant. Continue to watch, because if you don't watch, although you might not be asleep, you take your eye off the wheel, what happens? You're going to crash into the ditch. You're going to fall off the edge or a cliff. That's going to be it. So you have to be sober and vigilant. Why? Because your adversary, the devil, it's just a comet. All the while knowing good and doing well that it's something more than a comet. All right? So you have to be very aware of this devil craftiness. That's why it says Ephesians 4 and 14 that we be no more children tossed to and fro by every wind of doctrine. Ephesians 4 and 14, that we henceforth be no more children tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine by the sleight of man and cunning craftiness, whereby they lie in wait to deceive. Right? So if they knew what it was, they would try to downplay it like it could be a comet. All right? Very much well knowing that it's something more than a comet. So what do? We just have to be what? Patient. And being patient is what? Being sober and vigilant. Why? Because our adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. Let's see how many we can get to believe that it's a comet so that we can put the finishing touches on our device, Project Bluebeam, and put it in the positions that we needed to project this object to get people in fear to crash the market. Okay? Because now if we start putting this out in the media that we don't know what it is, it's looking more and more like it's not a comet, that it could have some type of profound impact. It could potentially cause a what do we want to say, a blackout. ATMs, they could easily switch the narrative. If this device get closer to Earth, it could cause a major outage through through power lines, causing the banks to shut down, causing ATMs not to work. Also, all the people needed some type of fear, some type of panic to go run and take their money out the bank. Now the stock market can't adjust for this. The stock market can't adjust for this account, and now it crashes. Now the dollar falls and taints, and now everything else just falls into place. All hell breaks loose. Jacob's trouble here. Now they have to bring in what? More troops, more, military officers from other places. Now they have to what? Bring in the microchip. Okay? We got everything up and running on generators. We can't have you come into the stores unless you have the proper identification, which is the chip. All right? See, this thing could be profound across many boards, man. They could use this to their benefit. All right? It's getting closer and closer to Earth. Day 46, day 45, day 43 from being outside of the Earth, from making touchdown. All the while they're projecting this thing from a Project Bluebeam. All right? And they shut down the internet. They shut down cell phones. They got the way of doing this. They could shut down the internet. They could shut down cell phones. You ain't gonna have no indication of what's going on, all right? Unless you know, are you close by someone that has some intel or insight on this, you're gonna have to go by what they telling you, all right? They may just have, like on your phones, when you get that sound, beep, 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 alert, national weather storm. Well, in that time, you may just get, only phones may be working are the phones that they using your phone for an alert. An alert, an unidentifying object is 3 days, 2 minutes, and 1 second away. Alert. Let's just say before then, they give alert. Unidentifying object the size of Manhattan has now set over this part of the earth. Let's say it's somewhere in Argentina where nobody can verify it and back it up. Or somewhere in the Amazon, somewhere desolate where they can't have technology, nobody can go there and back it up. We have suspended all international and domestic flights. So now you can't catch a plane to go over there to see. They don't shut everything down because why? They don't deem this as something that they don't know if it's good or bad. Now they done shut everything down. There's no electricity. The grid is being affected. They're using this object as something that's causing all of this. Meanwhile, it's just being used so they can justify bringing in what? Martial law and chaos to bring in what? The mark of the beast, the RFID microchip. All right? And you may be saying, well, damn, you have really lost it. You went out there on the deep end. Have I? As it says, have I become your enemy because I told you the truth? The truth is that Jacob's trouble is on the way. The manner of how they're going to bring forth chaos, I can't tell you. I'm just speculating, telling you. But I will say, according to the Bible, that there will be a time like never been before since the beginning of earth. Jacob's trouble, Jeremiah 30 and verse 7. All right? And we telling you to be sober, be vigilant, be prepared for everything. All right? You wake up. This thing get closer to the time where they can know what it is. Now they're telling you that it could potentially affect, like what do you call that? EMP, electric magnetic pulse attack. It could potentially affect all electronic devices, causing panic in the stock market. People are going to be taking their money out, trying to buy things. Man, this thing it could possibly go down in this manner. All right, and we telling you through the power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah to get ready, be prepared always. All right, you as it says, man ought to always pray and fast. All right, you got to continue to stay in the spirit. So be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. All right. So with that being said, Pray someone was edified through this lesson, and until the next time, if it be the Lord's will, stay strong, stay in the faith. We're almost home. Shalom. Peace.